Hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked at a previous session. My name is Juan. I am an English Spanish medical video remote consecutive interpreter with over 4 years of experience. Today is Tuesday, July 13, 2021. Today I took a total of 34 sessions. Like always, it was just a mix between audio sessions and between audio sessions and video sessions. There was a mix between them. Of course, it's always video sessions, to my demise. But anyways, I took a total of 34 sessions today, and I have a couple of highlights. I have a new term and three highlights that I want to give you before I answer one of our viewers' questions, which is any advice for the written test. Thank you in advice, and I am pretty sure she meant that this was for the MBCMI written test, so I'll be sure to give those tips. So let's get started. Now, the term a new term that I learned today is this one right here, and that is atrophic vaginitis. The Spanish translation for that is vaginitis atrófica. Just make sure you remember that little accent there. And let me give you the definition from my.clevelandclinic.org, and it says vaginal atrophy, also called atrophic vaginitis, is a condition where the lining of the vagina gets drier and thinner. This results in itching, burning, and pain during sex, among other symptoms. So it's a bad thing, and they thought that the lady had it, but they weren't sure. They were still diagnosing her. But I hope the lady gets much better. So moving on, I had a session today where the LEP spoke pretty good English, and we were speaking to the first doctor, and the patient wouldn't let me answer at all, like anything. And she cut me off several times, so I decided to just stop interpreting at all. Of course, I was still listening and taking notes just in case they needed me, but I was not interpreting for the lady, and she was doing a pretty good job. And then another doctor came in, and as soon as the doctor told her something, she didn't answer, and the doctor perceived this as if I was not interpreting. Then she went, "Interpreter, are you still there?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, but the lady speaks pretty good English, so I'm not sure if I have to interpret this or not." And then she said, "Well, ask her." And I went ahead and asked her, and it turns out that now she wanted me to interpret everything. So this time with this doctor, I had to interpret everything, and even if she seems like she was going to answer, I interpreted it as well. And then that doctor left, and she started speaking to the original doctor, and she started answering everything for the original doctor. So maybe she didn't feel comfortable with this new doctor, or I don't know what happened there. But I was able to practice and exercise one thing that is really difficult for me, right? Asking the patient or the doctor or the provider, or when the LEP speaks some good English, what they want me to do, right? And I think I handled it pretty good, because of course, well, the lady didn't let me answer, so I took that as a hint that she didn't need interpretation, right? I was still there though. I was still doing my duty, just to make sure that I wasn't got caught off guard, right? Like not listening, and then they asked me something, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." So yeah, I was still there, and I got to interpret during this session, and I got to ask and everything, so I think that was pretty good. Another highlight that happened today is that this gentleman had to give an explanation of why he was there, and it was of course it was in Spanish, but like the literal translation, I'm gonna tell you what he said in Spanish. He said, Estaba condensando la leche y luego había unas cajas de leche. Empujé la caja y me quedé doblado. So, like, um, that that didn't make a lot of sense. Like, so he pushed the box, right? Well, let me tell you what it is in English before. So I was making some condensed milk, and there were some boxes. I pushed the boxes, and I was bent, or I remained bent, and if I say any more, it would be adding, which the gentleman didn't do. So I had to go ahead. Like I kind of knew what he meant, like, but I needed an explanation because I was not sure. So I asked him, and he said that in order, because there were some heavy boxes, so in order to push the boxes, he had to bend down and actually push them while he was bent down. So he bent down to push the boxes, and once he pushed the boxes, he could no longer straighten back up. So once I had this explanation, I knew exactly what the man had said. I could give a correct interpretation for the other party. But yeah, at the beginning, like, I kind of knew it, but I just wasn't sure, so I didn't want to interpret something and then find out later that it wasn't true. So I decided to ask for an explanation. I got it, and everything went well after that. And the last highlight that I want to mention is that today, as soon as they put me in with the provider, the first thing that the lady said when she saw me, she said, "Oh, what an interesting thing." And, like, of course I didn't say anything, but inside of me I was like, "Oh, that's really flattering, man. You just called me a thing." Now I'm pretty sure, or I hope, she was talking about the interpretation device and not me, right? Hopefully. But yeah, I just had to share that with you guys. I just thought it was a little funny. Like, oh, what an interesting thing coming into my practice, right? So yeah, anyway, so moving on. And the question is from Rosa Brewer. And her question is, any advice for the written test? Thank you in advance. Now, just like yesterday's video, I have to say I have never taken a certification test, so I don't really have experience to be able to give you some, like, personal or really good advice, but I am going to do my best. And I have to say that I am a good interpreter, but not so much a good translator, because I have horrible spelling in Spanish. And if it was not for Microsoft Word, I probably would not even consider taking translation jobs. And it is not like the spelling, well, it is technically spelling, but it's not like real spelling, because I can spell the words correctly. And actually, one thing that I do, if I don't remember how to spell things in English, I actually remember how they are written in Spanish, and that helps me have really good translation, really good spelling in English, because I, like, see the language and I know that like, if I say it in Spanish, Spanish just sounds pretty literal, not all weird funky sounds and stuff. So, like, I remember the spelling in Spanish, how it sounds in Spanish, and then I just perfect translation. I'm sorry, perfect perfect spelling in English, right? So yeah, that has helped me out a lot. But like I mentioned, it is not like the real spelling. It is just the accents. Like, the accents, I have no idea where they go. I only got to the middle of 4th grade before going to the US. I was studying here in Mexico, so I only got to 4th grade, and then I finished 4th grade over there in the US. I graduated high school in the US, and now I am in college here, struggling with the Spanish accents, and I hate them. And honestly, I thought that I would never need them in my life, never ever. So I never took the time to actually learn them, and I'm trying to learn them now, but they just seem difficult, so I just remember them from memory. But other than that, I really don't know how they go. And but I do remember like certain things, like for example CION. I know there's an accent on the O now because of college. If it wasn't for college, I would still not be able to. I wouldn't even know that. I wouldn't know where the accents go because I've never even needed that. And I have Word, right? Microsoft Word to save my life. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but yes, I said it. And just to add to that, I had that mentality. I'm never gonna need this in my life. Why should I learn where the accents go? And just when I started as an interpreter, it turns out that Netflix was doing tests for their subtitles, and I took that test, and I thought I was gonna do good because I was a pretty good interpreter. But it turns out that my accent didn't make the cut, so I lost that subtitling gig, and I feel very bad about it. And for like a month, I tried learning the accents, but I really didn't get far with it. Didn't stick to it. And now in college, I have to turn in like written work in Spanish, right? So I mean, if I turn something in without an accent, they're gonna mark me wrong for like the whole spelling and grammar and punctuation and all of that, right? So at the beginning, I struggled a lot. Now I'm getting a little bit better because, like I said, I'm remembering all those accents and stuff. But anyways, that's not why you're here, right? I'm just blabbering on and I haven't answered your question. So to get on with your question, since I have no experience about that test, or I have never taken a subtitling test, I had to gather up a really good article from meridianlinguistics.com, and it's the title is How to Ace a Translation Test. I'm gonna leave a dink. I'll leave a dink. I don't even know what a dink is. I'll leave a link in the description to the article when I remember to do so, because I probably might not remember it today or tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure someday I'll remember, and then I'll add that link. Hopefully it's today after that video is all uploaded. And another thing that I have to say is that this is not specific for the MBCMI, but to general translation tests. So take this with a grain of salt, and just know that this might not be all that specific, but I really couldn't find that much information on that. On the oral one, there's tons of information. On the written one, not so much. So I will probably be doing some research on that, and I will get you a much better video. You probably won't even need it. You probably already aced the test, right? I hope so. But yeah, I think I'm gonna be doing a second video of this that is NBCMI specific, because there's a lot of people that are looking for that information, and if there's not that much to find, then I gotta get on that, right? Alright, so let's get started. Tip number 1, carefully read all instructions. And that makes sense, right? Now, I have made several mistakes whenever I turn in like my college assignments, and for some reason, like, I turn them in and I think they're great and I'm gonna ace those assignments, but then like I read the instructions again, and then it turns out that I turned in a complete turd. So once I get that F, I had to get that paper, and then I had to do the assignment all over again with the right instructions, right? So don't let it happen to you, and especially with this test, because, well, you're paying money to pay this test, right? And you don't want to pay more money than you have to. So yeah, definitely carefully read all instructions before even attempting the test. Yes, good advice from this article. And another one, number 2, only take the test if you are translating into your native language. Now, honestly, I was surprised to read this one, but I mean, it makes sense, since most people usually have like more knowledge of their native language than their second language, right? Unless you're me, and you know more about English than Spanish. But anyways, um, I would like really differ on this one, and I would say that I'm pretty sure there's people out there that can do a really great job on both languages, and I'm pretty sure I'm one of them. Nah, just kidding. I think yeah, I'm pretty sure I do a good job. I wouldn't really say that I'm one of the best translators out there, but I'm pretty sure I could do a good job, like translating from Spanish to English and from English to Spanish. Uh, but I did not know that that was a scarce skill. And honestly, I this is really intriguing. I didn't know this, and this is like just laid a seed in my mind, and I really want to get to the bottom of this. So I am going to be researching this one, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna make sure that that is true or not, and I'm gonna give you an answer into that one. But I mean, I don't know what to say about this tip. Only take the test if you're translating into your native language. If you don't have the confidence to be translating into your second language, then I would say, yeah, that's good advice. But if you have confidence, then go ahead and do it. Don't listen to that advice. So, number 3, do not translate too literally. Google Translate, anyone? Now, I have done some translation assignments, and yes, I get stuck on several phrases sometimes because just things just don't translate as easily or as literal as many things, right? There's many things that you can get away with, and there's just like no other translation that is going to fit perfectly than the literal translation. Of course, it has to be like grammarly correct, right? You can't put, like, for example, you can't say the red big dog, right? You have to say the big red dog. Just as long as you arrange everything together, but the words are the same, there's a lot of things that you are going to be able to get away with, but not all of them. Now, there are some things, and I'm sure we have all translated on Google Translate, right? And if you haven't, go ahead and do it so you can see what I'm talking about. And there are some things that are just not going to translate literally, so you're going to have to get that hamster, right, rolling on his hamster wheel just to be able to get those translations. And I've never done like a test, like I said, so of course I have all the knowledge of the internet to do the research on the things that do not translate literally, and that has saved my life. Sometimes I've even spent like half an hour trying to figure out how to translate something correctly. And those are just the little things that you get stuck on, right? So if you translate everything literally, you might be accused of machine translation, and this one is kind of obvious, but still sometimes we just need to hear it, right? Moving on, number 4, do your research. Now, this one sounds more for like assignments than tests, right? I'm sure they're not gonna let you Google everything just to make sure things are accurately. Like, they're just gonna tell you to do the test. Again, I'm talking out of my ass here. I don't know how the test is. I probably should have researched like how it is, but I didn't. I'm sorry about that. I promise you I'm gonna make a second video about this. So yeah, but I'm pretty sure that they're not gonna let you take a laptop, or if it's a computer test, they're not gonna let you research on Google to make sure that everything is correct, right? Now, that's why I say that I think this is more for assignments. And yes, I have yet to translate something that I did not research. Like all of the assignments that I've ever translated, for one reason or another, I had to do some research. Just to give you an example, there was an assignment where it talked about regions in Spain. Now, I had to do the transcript and the translation. So as I was doing the transcript, I did not know how to write the names of those Spanish places. So while I was doing the transcript, you had me researching to make sure that I was writing the things correctly, so that in my translation everything would be correct and precise, right? Because I was getting paid for that job. So again, this is a good reminder. I don't think it's so much a good test tip. It's more like for assignments, but still a good tip. And tip number 5: read your translations over several times before submitting. And yes, definitely, I would say proofread over and over and over and over once you are finished until they call time. And that way you can be sure that you read and proofread everything, and you made sure that there was nothing else you could do before turning in that assignment. And just to add to this one, I don't think this should only be done for tests, but it should be done for every assignment, even if you are just writing it in the same language, right? And read it over as much as you can, so that way you can catch as much mistakes as you can. And sometimes it looks great the first time, then you read it the second time and it looks horrible. You read it a third and you fix it. You read it a third time and it still sounds bad. Then fourth time you get it right. You read it a fifth time and you think it's all good, and you turn it in and it turns out to have a whole bunch of mistakes. But at least you tried your best, right? So no, I'm pretty sure you're gonna do pretty good. But yeah, definitely go ahead and read it as many times as you can before you actually turn it in. And another tip number 6 is put any notes you might have inserted as comments. Now there can be several times there can be what? Okay, yeah. There can be something that needs an explanation and cannot be translated. For this, you can leave it in the same language and add a note explaining what it is, so the flow of the statement is not interrupted. Now, any explanation should be added as a note. For example, let's say like you have to translate the name of a dish and it has no equivalent. For example, I'm thinking Spanish because of course I speak Spanish. If you have to translate mole, now there's no translation for mole, right? You look mole everywhere and they're just gonna say mole, M-O-L-E. And now when you're translating to a different language, the people that speak that language might not have never heard of mole, right? And if you put mole, of course they're not gonna know what it is. So as a translator, you're gonna need to add a note to that to explain to people that have never heard this word before in their life. And of course it's not in the language that you're translating to. It's a language that is the same, for example a dish, mole in this time. Then you can just leave it as mole and add a little note, and right on the bottom go ahead and just explain the name of the dish. That way people kind of have an idea of what it is. It doesn't need to be lengthy or anything, just explaining a little bit what it is, so that way people can have an understanding of what it is, even though it is a word that has no translation, right? For example, the dish this time. So yeah, I think those were some pretty good tips, except for the one that says only take tests is translating into your native language. Now, it might be a good tip for some people. I don't think it's a good tip for everyone. And what was the other one? Do your research, right? I don't think that's a really good tip for tests, but a good tip nonetheless for assignments. So that is pretty much it for me today. I hope I was able to give you just a little bit of tips, right? And I want to tell you again that I'm just dipping my toe into the water into this, because of course I have no knowledge of this, but I will get to the bottom of that, and I will make sure to have some really good tips for this written exam. I don't even remember the name of it. NBCMI. I'll be sure to have some good tips for the NBCMI. So that is pretty much it for me today. Please leave your questions in the comments and I will answer some of them on the next session. Remember that I'll be here every Monday through Friday after work. And also remember that we have a Patreon page where with as little as just $1 buck of your support. You help motivate us, and you help to create much more content, and you get access to everything in that page, all the medical practice videos, ad-free, scripts, answer sheets, vocabulary lists, and much more content. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like the video for more content, right? And have not done so, and don't forget to share. Happy interpreting. Goodbye.